Welcome back to Global War 1939. Just clued up turn 7. So let's take a look here. All right, so for the Germans, they did expand a little bit further, taking out a couple more Russian territories. Not going too deep, amalgamating whatever force they still had in Russia down in this area. They're going to attack Stalingrad very shortly, and then the surviving units of those, they have very few infantry. Most of these forces can move 2 spaces, so they're going to try to blitz into the Russian second capital before they really build up any stronger. Over the course of the next 2 turns, they'll take out these 4 territories, and they do have 18 medium armor, the surviving force from the Moscow battle, and they're going to head down into the Middle East. So within 2 turns, most of this should be clued up on the Axis side. So between these 4, these 2, and the Middle East, that's really a $20 swing once you include bonuses. So that is a pretty big deal. Not sure how the British in Africa are going to respond to this, because really now they have 2 major forces coming at them to get the Italians, and then the German Armor Corps. So there's definitely going to have to be some thinking. But for the most part, throughout this entire game, they've really been in a defensive mindset. So that'll probably continue. We'll see. The Germans did go ahead and activate 2 new countries. Sweden is now activated on the German side, as well as Spain. As soon as Spain gets activated, Portugal does on the British side. So the UK has Portugal, a small Portuguese fleet, a destroyer. This island here gets activated, and then these 2 territories down here. So the UK gets an increase of around $3. So does the Germans for Spain. However, because Spain gets activated, so does Argentina. Now, the rule is if Argentina gets annexed, then all these territories will join as well. My understanding of the rule is this is not being annexed or being activated. Their government is declaring war themselves. So my understanding of the rules is these territories wouldn't get activated, as opposed to the Germans getting a transport with an infantry and coming down and activating it that way. So Argentina's activated. The Brazilians knew this was coming. They had their army up in Africa, and then they turn around to face off against Argentina. The Americans did grab another transport, a couple more units to bring down. So really, it's 4 infantry versus 3 artillery and 6 American infantry. So Germany goes first, so Argentina moves along with them. Probably thinking take the small fleet, so there's a coastal battleship, a destroyer, take the 2 infantry, come up here, link up with the Italians in Africa. There's no way the Germans or the Italians can save Argentina. They will get destroyed. So just take it as whatever resources that you can out of it, link up with another force, and that'll be the end of those. Probably the Argentinian fleet, the Spanish fleet can meet up Sea Zone 53 and then try to make some disruption, or try to link up with the main German fleet. So because Sweden got activated, Germany got another transport, a destroyer, and 2 more coastal battleships, and they purchased 5 more subs. This is the main fleet. Right now it's in English Channel in Sea Zone 24. They'll probably back up in Sea Zone 17, linking up with all this. We'll see. I don't think the German fleet's strong enough yet to attack the Anglo fleet. Right now in Sea Zone 28, they got 2 British battleships, and then a slew of destroyers, and about 4 cruisers, a couple subs. Maybe we'll see how all this plays out. And then, of course, all those transports, they'll be rolling at one if attacked. So, and then how we activate these countries, we activated Sweden on the German turn. Now, Spain, the Germans left alone. They didn't activate it. The Italians activated it. And the reason why you would want to do that in the turn sequence, if the Germans activate Sweden or Spain, then the Americans and the British have a chance to jump on top of them. And I've seen it played out a couple times that the Germans will activate Spain, the Americans and British will come take out these two territories, and you're just left with Madrid. So you didn't really gain a lot out of it. Yes, the Americans and British are using resources to take these territories, but they're pretty easy to take out. And Spain really never gets a turn to actually help out the Germans. However, if you get Italy to activate it, then the Americans and the British have already gone, and that gives Spain at least one turn to activate, utilize their forces the best way they see fit, right? Yeah, so the Russians are pretty much dead in the water. They just got to build up in their secondary capital as best they can. Build up and probably make a run for Moscow in however amount of turns. We'll see how that plays out. For the Japanese really got two main battle groups now in Asia. They got this one here, which is this card. Fair amount of infantry, well, mostly veteran infantry, artillery, heavy artillery, some cavalry units, and they did purchase 3 light tanks. So they got 2 medium tanks, 3 light tanks, most of their air force, and a bunch of infantry pinning down the FEC. Japan did take out this territory here on their last turn, but the Chinese backed up, recaptured it. So China's really only this right here now. They got a couple of territories with 2 infantry in it. They're mostly just blockers, as most of their force now is in this one spot. We'll see how the Japanese respond. Communist China is now completely wiped out. Japanese might be gearing up to attack the Soviets up here, swinging a couple more dollars for the Japanese away from the Russians as well. Their last purchase, they did get another carrier with no fighters, just a carrier, a cruiser, a destroyer, another Armado, and a bunch more infantry. They got 3 tanks, another cavalry unit, some more infantry. So the Japanese are definitely gearing up. The last couple turns, they've built at least 1 capital ship with a couple of escort vessels. So they're definitely gearing up for a big showdown in the Atlantic or the Pacific against the Americans. Australia is still effectively out of the game. They did purchase a couple of fighters, and they're probably, that's how they'll have to get rid of these 4 cruisers, or destroyers, sorry. Build a small air force and attack them that way. We'll see. But they're kind of effectively out of the game. The Italians did take out this one last territory, backed up whatever force they had, and Morocco is now backing up. They did go ahead and purchase another cruiser, and they amalgamated all their capital ships together. So the Mediterranean's firmly back in the control of the Axis, with a brief period of the British in there. But the couple turns ago, the British fleet that was stationed here did hinder or hurt the Italian fleet quite a bit. But they started to recover somewhat. Still nowhere near as strong as they were, but are recovering pretty nicely. With the help of the Spanish fleet, that should aid in their ability to rebuild. But for the next couple turns, most of their income is probably going to go in the Navy, with a few dollars here and there to support more land-based units. The Italians are pretty much going to wait for these 18 tanks to come down. Probably once it hits Iraq, then they're going to react and start inching closer to Cairo. And their plan will probably be a 2-on attack. Let the Germans come in with their 18 tanks, and then probably I would suspect these tanks for Germany will probably lose this battle, but their intent is not to win, is just to weaken their infantry from the British, allowing the Italians to come in and clean up. So we'll see how all that plays out. For the Americans, they did purchase some more war-based vessels. The last couple turns, they've been buying a lot of transports. Last turn, they bought 4 destroyers and a battleship to go in the Atlantic to square off against the Germans. The previous games, the last three games or so, the Anglos had no worries about the German fleet as it got wiped out in turn 1. In this game, it was played out a little differently. The Germans do have a very healthy and strong fleet that the Americans and British do need to contend with and protect those transports. So we will see. The other purchase for the Americans was a loaded carrier. So that gives them 3 now total, with 3 battleships and a bunch of cruisers and destroyers as support vessels. They still don't match up against the Japanese. The Japanese capital ship count, right now they have 4 Armados, 4 carriers, 2 regular battleships. Mind you, 1 carrier doesn't have any planes on it. They'll probably take that one here. And they got 1 regular fighter here. They'll probably fly up and join that instead of purchasing new ones. It's almost to the point where the planes in Asia itself are probably not going to have much to do in the next couple of turns. Once these two, or if they do, if the China and the FEC main battle groups get wiped out, these fighters are not going to have very much to do. So utilize them best way you can. Maybe. We will see. This 1 sub here is going to come convoy this box, really hurting the FEC income, as they'll be down to about $8 once that happens, really limiting their ability to wage war. All right. So for the German plan, like, the Anglo force are still in Normandy, so this is still a very effective battle group. The Americans and the British reinforced it yet again. They opted not to move out and opted to add more units to reinforce it. And then they got some more tanks here, more infantry. The British got more tanks, more infantry as well. The British didn't send in their air force as a defensive force, because that would have left the home island completely vacant. And then they seen that the Germans do have 3 transports. Even if they can only bring over 6 units, but if they have nothing for defense, then 6 units can be very devastating. And that would effectively be the end of the game if the home island of Great Britain falls. So they opted to keep their air force there to defend their home island, dropped a bunch of new infantry, some more armor units. They'll probably bring those down this turn and then repurchase a defensive force. We'll see. All right. All right, well, thank you for watching, and you have yourself a great day.